It's Halloween. You know what that means? Spooky! Anyway, let's turn this picture into something magical by adding glow-up effects and highlights. And you know what's crazy? All of that was done using Affinity Photo 2 on the iPad. Let's get into it. Alright, we're gonna make into 4 steps. Step 1, we're gonna make a selection. Step 2, we're gonna turn the scene from day to night. Step 3, we're gonna work on each individual part of the deer that we've selected. And finally, we're gonna polish everything up until it all looks right. Before we start, always duplicate the main picture first. That way, if we mess something up later, we still have the original to fall back on. Here, I'm using the object selection tool to make my selection. I won't go over the whole cutting out process again because I already explained that in a previous video. I made 3 videos about how to cutting out object from the background. So if you want to know more about that, go give them a watch. Now I got the object separated from the background with a mask, and I'm gonna copy the layers, then use the brush technique on the mask to hide the parts that I don't need. So I've got each part separated, in this case the antlers and the body. I also want to add a glow effect to the eye, and I'm gonna use a pen tool to do it. Now that we've got the part that we wanted separated, we can move on to changing the scene from day to night. Alright, so to switch the scene from day to night, we're gonna add a brightness and contrast adjustment layer first and drag it over the targeted layer. You can use the same settings I'm using or find that works best for your image. Here I'm decreasing the brightness into -100 and increasing the contrast around 80. Once the brightness and contrast look good, next we're gonna add a recolor adjustment layer, and again we're gonna drag it over the targeted layer, and we can start setting the hue and saturation, bringing in more blue and cooling down the tones to give that soft nighttime atmosphere. You can follow along with my settings or just experiment until you get the look you like. And here we have it. This is before and this is after. Now we are moving on to adding the glow to the antlers. We're gonna start by rasterizing the layer with the mask, but before we do that, we're gonna duplicate it and keep the original one just in case. And we're gonna make it into a group and rename it antlers just to stay organized. And we're gonna duplicate it a few times, about 4 layers, and add a Gaussian blur to each one. You can follow my numbers if you want or adjust them until you get the glow you like. And to add Gaussian blur, you can click on the FX button over here and then select Gaussian blur. Next, I'm gonna add a recolor adjustment layer to change the color of the glow. You can follow my settings if you like, or just experiment with your own until you find a color that fits your scene. We've done adding a glow effects to the antlers, and now we're gonna work on the eye. Now moving on to the eye is basically the exact same process, but this time instead of using a recolor adjustment, I'm gonna add a fill layer, then drag it onto the eye layer, change the color of the fill layer to match the antlers, and then add a little bit of Gaussian blur and switch the blend mode to overlay to make it glow nicely. Now we got the antlers and the eye glowing. Next we're gonna work on adding some highlights to the body. Now for the highlights. It's basically the same process up to the recolor adjustment. Once you get there, drag it to the body layer and just match the color to the antlers so it looks like the glow is lighting up the body. Once you found the right color, go ahead and rasterize both the body layer and the recolor adjustment layer. Then we're gonna add a mask layer to it. And then we're gonna invert the mask layer. And how to invert the mask layer? So you're basically gonna go to channels icon over here and click on these three dots right here and select invert. After the layer mask inverted, now we can start painting in the highlights. We can use brush technique, black color to hide the mask and white color to reveal the mask. Try to think about where the light from the antlers would naturally hit and use your imagination to shape those highlights. To make the highlights look a bit more realistic, you can lower the opacity until it feels right. For the final touch, I'm gonna add an empty mask layer and using my Apple Pencil to draw a small dot in the sky. Just a little detail to make the scene feel more alive.